Welcome to Mastering the Art of Success. I'm your host, Debbie DiMaggio. I could not be more excited to welcome our guest today, Flavio Moy. He is my shaman. Welcome, Flavio.
Hello, Debbie. What a wonderful pleasure to be here with you.
I am so thrilled. I'm going to read your bio and then I just have questions that will just be the first time I get to interview you. You always
Yeah.
talk about me all the time. So tables turn, so excited. So today on Mastering the Art of Success, I'm joined by Shaman Flavio Moy, a transpersonal therapist, speaker, and 9-time initiated Andean shaman of the Quiro nation of Peru. Flavio's work bridges ancient Andean wisdom with modern psychology, consciousness studies, and leadership development. After a life changing spiritual awakening in Peru nearly 2 decades ago, he shifted from a successful real estate career into a global journey studying Buddhism, meditation, healing, and human transformation. Today, through his work with entrepreneurs, executives, and individuals around the world, Flavio helps people develop greater clarity, resilience, purpose, and alignment by integrating ancient wisdom with practical modern life. Wow, so thrilled. So, Flavio, did you know? Well, let's go back. Where did you grow up? What was life like? And how did you end up? Well, I guess you got into real estate first. So give us your journey and then we'll go deeper into what you do today.
Okay, so quickly, I was born in Peru. So I'm Peruvian. I was there until more or less my teen years, and then my family sent me to the States to study in university. And after some time, I also developed an interest in real estate. So I would buy, fix, and sell homes, and that became quite successful, surprisingly, to the point that I actually started doing that full time. And in we would always travel, and in one of those travels, we went to Machu Picchu, and I had a mysterious encounter. I was awoken at around 2 a.m. in the morning, and I had a. I'm still not sure if it was a vision or if it was some sort of a divine visitation, but I had an encounter with a very, very loving being. And it told me that I had to continue my path as a healer and a shaman. And the rest is history from there.
So how old were you when that happened?
That happened more or less when I was 37 years old.
And did you just, and then, so what did you do? Did you just quit real estate and started schooling to do this? Or what was that transition like?
The communication I had that evening told me that some very, very transcendental changes would happen in my life. So, so I really didn't have to do much, but actually observe the disentangling of my business, my investments, my thinking. I wasn't thinking the same way. Awakening, Debbie, is not a romantic process. It is a very intense process. And so you think you're going crazy. It feels like a roller coaster. The Kundalini got awakened in the middle of this whole thing, and it's you're going up, you're going down. You're not really sure what's real, what is not. You're having visions, hallucinations, and after some time, I settled and I went back to where this vision occurred, which was in Cusco in Peru. And the shaman was just walking down the street. It was just a stranger, just a local. And he stopped on his tracks. He looked to his left, and I was there standing. And he opened his arms and he called me. He's a complete stranger, and he told me, um, "Welcome, brother. You've awakened. We've been waiting for you." And that was it.
Oh God, I just got the chills. That's crazy. Oh my God. And then, so give us the definition or your definition, or explain what a shaman is. Because when I was hanging out with my friend and your friend, Debbie Hemeter, she said she had a shaman. And I said, Oh, great. I want a shaman. I had no idea what a shaman did. I'm just, as you know, open to everything. So when I first met you, I'm like, you asked me, do I have questions? I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know what you do. I just wanted one too. So tell us what a
Yeah.
shaman is and what you do.
Um, in the Andean tradition, in the deep south region of South America, in the southern region, shamans are people who we dedicate ourselves to truth and studying the cycles of life. We are considered healers and spiritual counselors and spiritual advisors. And by healers, not necessarily just physical, because for us, everything is energy. So any physical symptom for a shaman has to do with everything in your life. It's your inner vibration. So that's what we study. And there's a couple of um, processes that we go through that um, learning, but mostly it is through initiation.
And then how long did you study and what were the different things you studied to become where you are today?
This is a the initial time that I went the initial time that I went back to Peru and I met with the shaman. I was initiated within 3 hours of that, and um, I stayed and I talked to other people, but I still didn't know I was going to do this full time. Eventually, I went back to South America and I lived with a shaman for a few months, and he taught me. That was the biggest time, but ever since, every few years I go back and we do a an initiation, which is going to a secret, sacred site and invoking the power of Pachamama, which is Mother Nature, and connecting with the cosmos and divinity, and it elevates your vibration. It elevates how you vibrate as a healer and as a shaman.
Can you can you describe what a day was like with him?
With my master shaman, I was staying in a little hostel, like maybe 2 blocks away from his home, and then every morning I'd go and we I just walk with him while he did his daily chores, uh, tending his land, healing other people, and as we walked, he would tell me stories. This tradition, it's a tradition. It's shared. All of the wisdom is shared through stories. So and through symbols. So a typical thing would be walking down the canyon for maybe 3 hours, and then he'd stop me and he'd say, "Look at those mountains," and I'd be like, "Yeah," and he's like, "What do you see?" And I'm like, "Mountains." And he's like, "No, no, look deeper. What do you see?" And I'm like, I'm thinking, "Oh my God, this is not working." He's like, he like popped me on the shoulder and he like, "It's a turtle. See, it's a turtle." And okay, yeah, the mountain maybe had a little mound and it's what looked like a head. And he's like, "It's the universe or Mother Nature telling you to go slower because we just found the turtle." So it's very symbolical. It's almost romantic the way that they see the world.
Right. And so you've been doing it now for 2 decades. So, and you had to learn over time. So, is it something you feel? I mean, that's just so much wisdom and knowledge. And I mean, from seeing that, like, how do you develop that within you? Is it because you're intuitive? I mean, I'm definitely intuitive, but I'm not a shaman. So how do you develop that? I mean, you went from being a normal person as a real estate person doing very different things to becoming this healer. So, are all could anyone become a shaman, or is it just something that is in you from birth?
This particular tradition, um, we we had a prophecy, and the prophecy came true in the late 1970s, which meant that we had to share the knowledge worldwide. And it also meant that our contribution as shamans would help the evolution of humanity. That is our path. This is who we are, and everybody has it. Anybody can do it. A lot
Great.
of it is just understanding that our brain works with numbers and facts and what academicals people would call science. That's perfect, but we also work with symbolism and intuition and the language of the heart, what feels right within. And very often, with a lot of my clients, Debbie, um, you have that the brain is saying one thing and the heart is saying another thing, and the
Hmm.
proper path is when both of them actually communicate and they both make the decision together. So, yes, anybody can do it. It's just adjusting the thinking and giving a little bit more training to the symbolic aspect of our thinking.
Incredible. So tell us, so when I'm having my appointment with you, we're on Zoom and I see you and you are 100% engaged, but you're also doing something, which, yeah, down here. So what is it? What is your medium to figure me out or answer my questions? How do you do that? What's your process?
So the first thing is we talk. If you've noticed, as soon as we greet, we'll talk for about maybe 1 to 3 minutes, and we're talking about anything. And if I'm talking to a client, I've never had this issue with you, but if I'm talking with a client that is very quiet or shy or hesitant, then I'll tell a story. I'll be like, oh, my day was like this, and this happened, and the weather, and whatever's going on, and what that does is it connects us
Mm,
through our five senses. We do have an energetic connection, so we do connect. As soon as that click happens, I'll feel it, and we all feel it. We feel it when we start reading a person, when we feel that we maybe like someone, or we think that somebody's a little cold, or we don't trust that person, or we see that they're a little bit distant. That's normal. That this is part of the process. And as soon as that happens, that's it. We're connected. And as we will talk, I not only pay attention to what you're saying, but I pay attention to how you're expressing it. Um,
mhm.
the speed of your breath, the speed of your words, your gestures, how long, if it's a microsecond that you delay on an answering me a question, or something that you probably have heard me say very very often is, "What's the question?" Because
Mhm.
what
You always.
very often, because um shamans, we communicate with a higher life is an intelligence, and life is always talking to us, always, at all times. And so it's just a matter of learning how to communicate and learning how to ask the question. Once the question is set, the perfect answer will come. It's there's no doubt about that.
It's incredible. And then you also, so we're having that dialogue, but I believe when I ask a question, there are cards involved. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
what kind of cards are, describe the cards, a few of the cards. What do they look like? I've never seen
So
them.
okay, the shamanic training teaches you how to read everything. So we learn in the training, we learn how to read plants, clouds, animals behaviors, patterns in the dirt, patterns in the water. um, the original way of reading for Andean shamans is with stones.
Oh,
So just a normal stone, and you drop it, and the way that it lands, it tells you the way that it behaves as it lands, how many times it tumbles, which way it is pointing, south, east, west, north. All of that is already giving you information. It's all based on um, ancient symbolic processes that we study on. But when I talk to you guys, because I have a glass desk, stones are not a good idea. I'll probably break it a few times. So most of the times I do regular playing cards,
oh,
just regular
playing
playing.
cards. I
Yep.
thought they might have pictures on them or something.
No, that's it. It's just playing cards. It's the symbols that they project and the patterns that they explain. And I've been doing it for so many years, and they're so easy, and they're not as dangerous as stones. So yeah, it's usually playing cards.
That's incredible. And do you when I ask a question or a client asks a question, do you know before you read the card, or is the card really telling you or reaffirming what you might know?
Wonderful and amazing question. So most of the times, um, it's a dual process. As your personal shaman, I do have certain directives, which I'll share with you as your shamanic advisor. But very often, the cards have a completely different take on the situation, and all I'm
Mhm.
doing is just reading the symbols that they're presenting. So you actually get two answers at the same time, and most likely I'll tell you as we move forward. But when the cards are talking, and very often the cards, sometimes they'll give quick answers, sometimes they're long and complex and deep answers, and that's the beauty of the process.
It's incredible that you're looking at a card and there's all that information. So we've had some, I mean, I just can't believe how long I've known you now for probably 4 years, maybe. And so much has happened, but I quote you all the time. Yesterday I said something of recently a lot. I said, I asked you a question if I should reach out to someone to endorse my book because I wasn't sure if I should or not. And you said, you were very definitive and you said, absolutely yes. And that was the absolute right decision. Not, I don't know if I want to share it all now here, but a lot has happened and it's all been correct. I'm actually meeting that person next Friday in New York, in person. And people who know him are like, how did you get that appointment? I'm like, I wanted to thank him. And he said, yes. It wasn't hard. It's like sometimes you feel like you're running up against a brick wall, but right now things, thank God, are going smoothly with my new book, and a lot of doors have opened up. But I do, so just for the audience who is not sure what a shaman does, I did not know, and I started with you, and I reaffirm things, or if I'm not sure, you help me make a decision, or if the timing's not right. And I rely on you quite often. I said yesterday in my presentation, well, I asked my shaman and he said yes, or I confirmed with him on X. And so I use it all the time. And I know I've referred you to many people, and I believe one of them sees you every week. So people can see you weekly.
Yeah.
I see a couple months at a time, but people can come to you quite often. Give us give us some fun, something that happened with the client that maybe was they were shocked that it happened, or some story that you can share with us about a client that had either a big breakthrough or something great happened, or something he or she was completely blown away that occurred that he or she had no idea.
So one of the something I'd like to say before I get into that story is that in shamanism, it's a very optimistic tradition. We believe that we in our heart that here in life you can have absolutely everything you want, everything you health, beauty, wealth, success, love, joy, travel, luxury, everything, as long as it is in balance. As long as it's in balance, and that's the job of the shaman. So you can absolutely have everything. There's no reason for the human being to be struggling in any way. So when we ask a question with the cards, it's not about will I get this or will this work or can I do this? It's how do I do it? And that's another thing that Debbie, I don't think with you because you're very, very aligned in your patterns. But with other clients, I have to stop them and say, no, 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 wait, this is how we do it. And sometimes it's always yes that you can achieve or accomplish something. But sometimes the price or the reciprocity is not worth it. So we kind of lower the goals.
Mm.
Okay, you don't want this much, but you can have this much, and it's perfect. Um, One amazing story is a client that I met about 4 or 5 years ago. And when I met her immediately, this happens often. Um, I just the her energy was just amazing. It was this light in the room, and it was like a to me in symbolical terms. This is how I see it in my mind. It was like a shooting star just flying through the sky, but and I remember in that first session, the information that was shared, absolutely after a couple of things that needed to happen, which is normal in life because you can have anything you want. But
Mhm.
of course, we have to be prepared for it. So
Right.
after things that happened, we have that same person going on an amazing trajectory right now. And I have the honor to be talking to her right now because,
Well, it is true because I met you at a time where I was just like I felt like I was flatlining. I felt like, yes, I have a good real estate career. Yes, I'm married. I have my two beautiful kids, which is always the pinnacle of a Sicilian mother. So I everything was going fine, but I didn't feel like there was something cool to do, something fun, something a challenge. And I'm like, what is it? What's next for me? I have to always have something else. And I remember where I was. I ran from watering a garden at our one of our listings to running to the office and setting up, and I didn't know what was going to happen. And it was very different. And it's so fun to have you tracking right now what's going on from that first meeting. And there was always you would say it's not going to be now, but it's going to come, and this and that.
yes,
So you it is. I haven't been to therapy, but it feels like a therapist, but actually way more because I don't believe a therapist. I think they listen to you, but I don't know how much they give. You give so much and you guide. And there were times when you were like, it's not now, but it's coming. And I think it was about planting the seeds and me being ready to receive. And I write that in my book, Mindset in Motion, when I was coaching someone I had introduced you to, and I was trying to help her through the empty nest. And I finally said, when she got to the other side, I said, when you have to be receptive to receiving, because she wasn't receiving. I said, I can help you. I went through the empty nest for 10 years. I was so depressed. I said, if you do this, this, and this, and she just wasn't ready. And I said, you be receptive to receiving anyway. So since meeting you, I mean, a podcast wasn't even a thing. And here we are on my podcast. I had
that's right.
no idea how to start. I had nothing, no knowledge. But as I said, maybe that's the thing I need to do next. All of a sudden, things started coming my way, and I didn't know I couldn't do anything technically. And we have a wonderful producer here with us who does the technical part. And people started coming my way. And then someone reached out to me when I was about to go with a different company and have to do some of the work. And they reached out to me. It was like drawn to me, and it just paved the way so easily. And so much has happened. And I can't wait to talk to you afterwards. I have a whole list of things to share. But I will say, I had very clear vision. My vision, and I say in my book, and I'll say it here, you have to share what you want with others because no one knows what you want. And it's an
Mhm.
open invitation to share that with the shaman because you're trying to work it out, and that's why you work together. But I tell people, share with no one knows what you want until you share it. And I was sharing on a podcast, and someone heard the podcast. This was right after my book was published about a month and a half ago. And she called me up on the phone. She said, I heard your podcast with Sean, and you said you wanted to speak and take your book and travel and speak. And she said, would you like to join Keynoters? And I said, sure. What's that? I never, like, it was same with the shaman, with you. I don't know. I just want one. So anyway, she invited me to Keynoters, and someone came on like a mirage almost. He only was on for 3 minutes, and what he said was so powerful. He said, "Does if anyone wants to do a TED Talk, I can get you an invitation. You don't have to fill out an application." And then he was gone. like it didn't happen. I stayed on for the hour. I got on LinkedIn right after. I filled out his form for a consultation. This was Wednesday. I met him on Saturday. I said, is he really going to show up? I don't think he's, 3 o'clock on a Saturday. Did he even really get on there? Because when I asked the friend, she said, oh, I didn't hear that. I'm like, okay, am I crazy? I get he comes on at 3 on a Saturday. He said, oh, I can absolutely. You just have to get to South Africa. And he said, I'll introduce you to the person. Well, after 3 calls with the person, I still didn't believe it. And I said, wait, I could, because I know how hard it is, all the application processes and the time. And she's like, no, I told her my story. And she's like, no, absolutely. So
Yeah.
I'm going to South Africa to do a TED talk on my birthday, July 14th. Not to mention, in that week, there's a community service aspect, which is so dear to my heart, and there's a mentorship of young women part
Wow.
of it. And even crazier is that I have to move this. This is printed in 2012, and my first book contained beauty photographs, reflections, and swimming pools. Princess Diana was always my role model for all the goodwill she did around the world. And I bought the Getty image to have it in my book. And I talk about her and what she did for humankind. And the photo I chose was not her in a beautiful gown. It was her walking through the minefields in Africa. So my
Oh,
TED talk isn't in France. It's not in Italy. It's not in Greece. It's not in Austin, Texas. It's in Africa, where
yeah.
it was planned, right? I mean, I'm like,
Yes.
it was the path. I couldn't say no. It just
No.
seemed like it was embedded in my journey to get here.
Absolutely. There's this other aspect of shamanism, Debbie, that we don't see the person. We do, but what we really look for is the soul. That beautiful vibration that is a few layers within us. And I always knew your potential. I always felt the magic and the energy. So it's so beautiful to see it evolve and see it manifest now. It's amazing. And there's more. There's still more. There's still
Oh, I
more
gotta do
coming. We know it. Yes.
so. All right, we'll be right back. We have to take a commercial break. We'll be right back with my shaman, Flavio Moy.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical. Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk.
Welcome back to Mastering the Art of Success. I'm your host, Debbie DiMaggio. We are here with Shaman Flavio. So, going back to some of your in your bio, so after Peru, you moved to Thailand to study Buddhism. Was that something the shaman, your shaman teacher told you to do, or was it something that just came to you and you felt like you needed to go?
When I had this apparition, this communication. The part of the message was when everything goes haywire in your material life, go completely to the opposite side of the globe. So I did have a map in my living room back then, and exactly on the opposite side is Thailand. So I took off. I just took off, and while I was there, I had no idea what I was going to do. And there was a Buddhist temple 2 blocks away from the hotel where I was staying. So I started going every morning, and I learned simplicity. I learned to serenity, to calm the mind, and that everything that that we believe that creates our identity is outside of us. Everything is actually inside of us. So, but after a few months of living in Thailand, I realized that I had to go back to where I had had that experience to see what had happened and what had happened to me.
Wow, that's incredible. So, for people unfamiliar with Andean wisdom traditions, what does it mean to be initiated as an Andean shaman? And what's the difference? What are the other types of shamans?
So shamanism is the oldest spiritual system in the history in we like to say it like this, in this history of humankind. Um, we there It's the most fundamental, basic, and simplest way to communicate with something that's beyond, something deeper that we are. An initiation is another way of saying, of allowing some of what makes up your material identity and completely dismantling it and putting it back on together. It's a symbolical rebirth, which implies a process which makes the sometimes the conscious mind, absolutely the subconscious mind, think that you are dying. So it's a very tends to be a very scary process at some point,
Mhm.
um, and scary and or incredibly uncomfortable. There's a lot of stress in the process because the principle is that when we are undergoing stress, our aura, our energy field lights up, and this is the best moment to program our inner consciousness. So, another way to explain it, which is not a pretty example, but it happens, is PTSD.
Mm.
Soldiers go to war. They're in a very intense environment, and they see something very incredibly traumatic, and it's the same process. Their aura expands, and they adopt that trauma, and then this is why shamans are so good at working with PTSD and bipolar disorders or psychiatric disorders, because we see it from that perspective.
And what could you say to someone with PTSD that maybe a doctor couldn't? How do you work with someone with ADHD or PTSD?
The first thing that we need to that shamans come in from the angle that you're already perfect.
Okay.
Everything that you are is perfect. It's the human body is like and psyche is like a forest. If untouched, it'll absolutely balance itself and be healthy. So that's the first thing. So you're absolutely perfect. The second thing is that everything that you're perceiving is 100% real. It may not palpable. It may not be, you may the threat that you're perceiving is 100% real. It is. You're not. If you're the only one feeling anxious in one room, then the shaman will be right next to you and be like, "Yes, I will. I recognize the same thing that you are." And it's an energy that does not belong to you. It is a misplaced energy. So the shamans, we have techniques to communicate with that energy, negotiate with it, and place it in a place in a where it belongs, outside of the field of the person that is undergoing that PTSD.
Wow, that's incredible. So, what types of clients do you work with? There was a whole list, but give us an idea of the types of clients you work with, because you work with an array.
In the last 2 decades, I've had waves of different types of clients. So I've had clients of different religions, different cultures, different races, ages, age ranges, different symptoms. Things like I've had people that thought they were being targeted by maybe aliens or the government or even internet demons, all sorts of symptoms and energy systems that can um, affect people. But lately, in the past maybe 3 to 5 years, it's mostly been um, ladies that are welcoming a higher evolution of humanity. For us shamans, there was another prophecy which in 2012, it wasn't like the Mayan calendar. A lot of people thought it was the end of a cosmic run or the end of the world. For us shamans in South America, we knew that it was the masculine energy switching over to the feminine energy. So we will be seeing a lot of more loving, nurturing, embracing energy into humanity. It's already happening. All this chaos that we're perceiving right now, it's part of the process. This is how shamans see it. But it is ushering these beautiful, beautiful um, um, feminine energies embodied by women, which will be the leaders in the next couple of centuries. And it's an incredible uh, reality that we're going in a very organic and um, yeah, positive way.
Wonderful. So do you see, I have such a connection to history and old buildings and architecture. Is there a way, is that something that you can explain? Like, do you know things about past lives or, um, and what would you say to me about that? I mean, literally, I will look at an old building in Italy or France or just the old buildings on the Upper East Side of New York, and I just have this reaction, like heartfelt reaction to that. What does that mean? I've been meaning to ask you.
So one question that sometimes shamans we get in trouble nowadays, is we ask, "Oh, where are you from?" And a lot of people look at me like, "Oh, wait, why are you asking me this question?" And it's because we pay a lot of attention to the lineage. We believe that wherever you were born and wherever your parents were born, that place in time and space will and those nutrients of that land and the energy of that land, as you were breathing, eating, drinking water, all of that gets imbued into your genetic makeup, and that your soul chose it for a specific reason. So so when we have a person now, a lot of where you come from, where your lineage comes from, will carry a lot of that energy. And the soul will naturally, the soul's going through a trajectory through a few lifetimes. In shamanic tradition, we believe that the soul decides to go on a tour of earth, and it takes between 2 to 3,000 years. So few lifetimes of 120 years, or at least 120-year periods. And the connecting into this, sometimes we're learning specific lessons in life as we come. So
Mhm.
the lineage will actually gives us a hint of the lessons that you need to learn. In this case, with you, for example, it might be architecture,
Mhm.
and you are in real estate, and you also, I know, you have a calling for Europe and structures that have meaning behind them, that
Right.
have essence.
Yes.
um, and that is also part of your message, your current message. What we're doing right now, right here talking, it's part of that process. So that's how a shaman sees it.
That's very cool. Yeah, it's so interesting. So, does someone, I of course share you with everyone, and like you have to talk to Flavio, you have to talk to him. So, what if someone's not a believer? Does someone have to believe to benefit from a conversation with you?
Absolutely not, because the first thing that I do is I will talk and very casually at the beginning, and depending on how the person wants to take it. But shamans, that this is another thing that we're very unique at. We honor free will, so
Mm,
we will only go where the client wants us to go. Otherwise, it's a transgression. So we don't do that. It doesn't work anyway. Yeah, nobody can transgress into a person's energy field. So if somebody doesn't believe, I would suggest quick conversation with me, and sometimes they don't need for me to be looking at the cards or looking within their soul. It's just a communication with someone that has studied for many many years about being centered, and that's all you need sometimes. Just a centered point of view from an external. And what happens very often, Debbie, is I end up telling these people things that they already know about themselves, but they were in doubt from within. They're
no.
like, oh, I don't know if I'm this or I that, and they never told anybody. And I pick up on it fast, and that's the moment that the trust begins, the reciprocity, and the balance, that the connection that happens between myself and the client. Very often, a lot of my clients, they don't ask me questions. They don't need to know. They already know what they want, but they do need um, a perspective that is very very intimately connected to them. A relationship with a shaman is more than a best friend. Is more than an advisor.
Right.
It's somebody that truly truly appreciates the vibration of your soul, and it's a beautiful connection. It's one that I usually have with clients
Amazing.
for years. Yeah, I work with now. I've worked with a grandmother. I work with the parents.
Oh,
I've predicted the baby. Now the baby is talking to me before going to college. It's
oh
beautiful
wow. Oh my
process.
God, that's incredible. Oh my gosh. So you talk about energetic architecture. What is it and how does it influence success, relationships, and decision making?
Energy is power, and it's absolutely perfect as long as it is. If you're an architect, for example, you need to have a blueprint, and you need to know what to tell your workers what to do, what goes first, what machinery you need, what materials you need, what quantity of materials do you need. So in a very symbolic way, when I get together with my clients, we I will ask them what they want and what is the question, and then we will get to work in making the blueprint. And then after we have the blueprint, we start into the logistics. We direct the energy for the proper materials and the proper workforce to be able to direct the manifestation that they want. So that's more or less what I mean by architecture.
Right. No, it makes sense. So in my book, Mindset in Motion, when I meet with people, I will often say, if when I just started out, I was asking people, and so tell me, in Mindset in Motion, I have the 5-step framework. So I said, tell me what your goal is, and I will send you a Mindset in Motion blueprint. And it just slots right into those 5 steps, that 5-step framework. So I totally get, well, especially the
Yeah,
architect example
yeah,
too, but it's so incredible. Um, so you were just in Peru, I believe. Were you just
yeah.
traveling in South America? So was that for fun, or were you going back to get more education, or just to visit family?
This is the first time in the 20 years that I just go for fun. I just
Wow.
went for fun. I still did meet with one of my master shamans back down there. He taught me something new, and every time that you go, every time you talk to a shaman, you learn something new. because it's life experience and it's soul to soul connection. We like to think of shamanic tradition as alive. We don't put it down on a book or on a tablet because we believe that it gets locked in, and we want it to be fluid and to be growing and expanding in beautiful different ways and in individual ways. But this particular time, we did traveling, we did tour, we did some sports, and we dedicated one day to meet with Carlos, one of my master shamans, and he shared. He told me, look. Let's do a little exercise to cleanse, breathe deeply. And we went to a sacred site and we sat there. And he's like, just think of all of your clients, all of your loved ones, and think of all of your dreams, anything that you want. Just keep thinking until you cry. And
Wow.
I was that was very unique. And I followed the instructions and I started. It was nonstop. And he said
Really?
that Mother Earth listens when it comes from the bottom of your heart.
And
And if
how long did that take before you went from having a casual conversation to all of a sudden that emotional?
so the he we did a little cleanse that lasted about maybe 3 to 5 minutes. The traditional way is with condor feathers, which are very very long, and then they cleanse you. Um, I, in person when I do it here in Miami, it's a little different. Um, but we did that, and then we sat in a stone bench, an ancient one made by the Incas, by the ancient people there. And he went away. He's just like, look, just think of what you want. And it took about maybe 10 minutes, maybe a little more.
Well,
Uh,
from going from totally fine to all of a sudden getting so emotional.
yes,
That's
getting incredibly emotional, and it was like that particular site is called the heart of Pachamama, the heart of Mother Earth, and
okay.
there's a stone in the way of a heart. And
Mm.
what happened was I started thinking of people I know, clients, family members, things that I want, dreams, and it all came from a very pure place. And at some point, I felt the presence, this motherly presence, lovingly listening, and that's what just opened up my heart. And yes, lots of tears. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not
Understand.
used to that. Yeah.
A world driven by speed and achievement, how can people reconnect with themselves in a meaningful way? And what are some practical daily practices people can begin using immediately to create more clarity and resilience?
Three things, four,
Okay.
four
Okay.
things. The first one is the process of forgiving.
Mm,
We 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 have an ancient site in South America which has, I think, 3,000 steps built by the original people thousands of years ago, and we go up. Every step is somebody you forgive,
oh, wow.
and what happens is that after maybe the 40th or 50th step, you ran out of people to forgive, and it's
Hopefully,
not
my
that
God,
many.
a lot of
It's not that
people.
many. And what there's shamans there, and what the shamans say is like, oh, now you have to start forgiving politicians, the world, this person that did this, that other person that that, and then after about another 50 steps, you ran out of people to forgive. Um, and then the final ones is all about forgiving yourself for that time that you were late, for that time that you didn't say what was correctly, for that time that you gave in, for that time that you were soft, or for that time that you were too hard. And it's all about forgiving. So that's the first step. The second step is being grateful. Being grateful activates the state of grace. So we just thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you for everything. And that sets up the energetic vibration for the next two steps, which completely align your creation. The next one is justification. This is justifying every single thing that has happened to you, good, bad, and ugly, that it was the correct thing to happen for you to be here now, creating this magical moment, because you're about to embark in a process of creation. So you justify everything. You accept whatever decision you had to take. You accept whatever accident happened. You accept whatever act of God occurred, or whatever, whichever way somebody acted that affected you. You justify it under a higher divine law. And once you have those three parameters aligned, now it's very simple. You just decide what you want, and it's a done deal. Decision. We in Andean shamanism, we believe that all diseases, all of them, every single one, happens because of lack of decision.
Mm, you do have to have clarity. Number one in my book, fine,
Yes,
clarity.
yes.
So decide what you want. You have to be clear and unwavering clear. And that's, I think, what happens with me. I am so clear in what I want. And if not, I keep writing it out until I find clarity. So that is incredible. So, of course, this went so fast as I knew it would. And I've been looking so forward to this. How do people get a hold of you, Flavio?
Oh, they can go to my website, healershaman.com. They can email me, Flavio at healershaman.com. And or just a quick call. I'm always available, 305-735-1043.
I love it. I mean, I can't imagine the amount of people you help and heal and support and give your love to is incredible. And this has been so incredible. And do you have time after this to talk, or are you going right to it?
Yes,
All right,
absolutely.
we're going to end this podcast because I have so many questions for Flavio, and I highly recommend you get in touch because he has just been such a mentor to me, and I'm so grateful. And gratitude, by all means, that got me through the LA Marathon with no training because I was grateful I had legs to be able to run where most people don't have, not most people, some people don't have legs or the
Mhm.
ability. And that's where I reframed in the marathon. Why are you doing this back and forth? I said, I'm grateful to be able to run. And that's what got me through the second half of the marathon. So thank you, Flavio, so much. I will call you in 2 minutes, and that is a wrap.
Tune in each week for another episode of Mastering the Art of Success with host Debbie DiMaggio. Thursdays, 2 p.m. Eastern. Real stories, real strategies, real success.